Very good to see you, Phyllis. Very good to see you, Taysha. The name of our panel references the front line, and I know that each of us has seen various aspects of what that means and the sacrifice that it requires. I've known Phyllis a long time. In fact, the stove that is behind her has probably fed 10,000 people. There was something known as the People's Skillet, which was this big, giant cast iron frying pan, I don't know, of unknown dimensions. And it fed a lot of us on Boot Hill, on what is also called Gulf Hill. And Phyllis comes from a legacy of movement people. Phyllis, I want to turn the microphone over to you.
Thank you and good evening. Chante washte na pe tuyusape. Mini techiawe himachiape na mini yuha najiwe himachiape. I'm woman who stands by the water and woman who loves the water. My given names by my people and my community. I am Hunkpapa Lakota and also Ihunktawa Dakota. So I have two grandmothers who are Hunkpapa and two grandmothers who are Ihunktawa. So I want to talk about the front lines. Have been there all my life, and for many years in the American Indian movement, I hid from the camera, and I wanted to get the work done and do the business, and so started out very young in the Trail of Broken Treaties in 1972. In 1973, the Wounded Knee occupation at Pine Ridge, South Dakota. The traditional chiefs came to Standing Rock in 1974 and asked for an international treaty conference. We facilitated that here at Standing Rock on June 20th with two objectives: to create a place at the table for United Nations. The second objective was to create an embassy here in Lakota country. My work is primarily the treaty study, was for 15 years in the UN, and the dialogue that is created for the legislative fiat, for the litigation. I'm very privileged to have walked in the path of great moccasins and great diplomats and humanitarians worldwide. In this time of stress and need, we have to be on the front lines for preservation of life itself through the nurturing of Mother Earth.
That was Phyllis Young, all the way from the Standing Rock Nation, which is home to Lakota and Dakota people, bands. It's where I was raised until I was 19 years old. And Taysha, I met Taysha Martineau of Camp Migizi on Anishinaabe homelands during the Line 3 struggle. I did not really understand or care to look into anarchism, or I had only known from my daughter what indigenous feminism is, what gender fluidity is, what non-binary being is. Now these are aspects of our lives that are evolving, that are being challenged. So I heard the term post-traumatic church disorder. I don't know who coined that term, but a lot of our thinking, indigenous people's thinking, is evolving and being challenged right now. So I wanted to say that before we pass the mic to Taysha, because that's what Camp Migizi and Taysha inspired in me and changed the course of my life, the way that I think. So I wanted to give Taysha a chance to tell us what you've been up to, tell us about Camp Migizi, and specifically how your non-binary leadership is informing that process.
Uju, Tabiki Gizas, Gijikwe, Nindishnakas, Nagachuanang, and Dunjiba, Migizi Doadam. Hello, everyone. My name is Taysha Martineau. I'm a Two-Spirit Indigenous Anarchist from the Fond du Lac Reservation. I recognize Minnesota as the treaty territories of the Anishinaabe people and the ancestral homelands of the great Oceti Sakowin Oyate. At Camp Migizi, when we decided to put up our resistance camp, we knew that we would be controversial because I live on the reservation whose tribe actually is the only one who supported the project. Not only are we, young children participating in direct action and civil disobedience, we're all LGBTQ+. We're all very queer, very non-binary, and, as Indigenous people, we recognize the term Two-Spirit, and that's sacred to our people. But for our non-Indigenous relatives who came to fight alongside us, to help protect the water and protect the river, we had to educate and learn about, all of the different gender identities that exist in the world. And it's been absolutely beautiful. Every time that we took to the front line, we would bring that Two-Spirit power with us, and in the beginning, law enforcement was really unsure of how to perceive that, how to act. And, it was wonderful to see them kind of shake in their boots and be like, oh my gosh, what do we do? They're dancing. They're happy and they're dancing and they're very gay and there's rainbows everywhere. And it was really a lot of fun. The front line has been, it's been an experience. I never thought at, the young age of 27, I would start doing this work and get to the point where, everything that we've been navigating has been so traumatic. And now coming towards, a transition towards the end of the Line 3 fight, the fight will never be over, but recognizing that those of us here at Camp Migizi have more than just trauma bonds. The bonds that we have with one another, the bonds that we have with our Lakota relatives that we've met on this journey, it goes so deeply that a pipeline wasn't even able to touch that, and that's what Camp Migizi is about. It's about learning to adapt, learning to move forward by reaching back into our old ways, by recognizing, whose land it is we're on. Before the government placed us here and said, okay, this is your treaty territory, who caretaked these rivers and these waterways. And the more I looked into it, the more I realized that, as Anishinaabe people, we owe it to those who came before us to ensure the safety of the Lakota mounds that are still in our regions, of these beautiful waterways. Here in Minnesota, they call us the land of 1,000 lakes, 10,000 lakes, and it was really terrifying to know that this pipeline was coming through my very reservation, and that my reservation was the only one saying, yeah, it's fine. And, at the beginning of the fight during Standing Rock, none of us were prepared to fight our own. That was something that was absolutely traumatizing. But here on Fond du Lac with the Line 3 fight, I knew that by putting up a camp that I would have to fight my own. And and it's at that point where you need to realize that your connections to the land is more important than any money that a corporation can come through. Because if they can come through and just buy anything, then what is sacred anymore? And who are they to tell us what is sacred? As Indigenous people, we've been fighting this war against colonialism for 500 plus years. Anywhere that we choose to pray is sacred. We are sacred. And, really recognizing that and stepping forward by being, telling people, no, we need to move back. And it's just really upsetting this colonized mindset that some Indigenous people not only have, but are willing to fight to protect. The idea of young Two-Spirit Indigenous people living inside of Waganagons and lodges and teepees has really got the reservation that I live on upset, to the point where, they're attempting to sue us. And, the front line, it's more than just locking down to the equipment. It's more than just climbing into the pipes. And it's more than just standing in the river so that they can't drill. There's a lot of love there. There's a lot of laughter. There's a lot of, relationships that you build and you nurture, and you continue to hold those relationships. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that they believe that they've won, because the takeaway from all of this is, with how young we are and how much we've learned, we're only going to keep getting better, and we're only going to keep learning new powerful ways to live as Indigenous people, resisting the system that is meant to choke us out. And I think, we're a new status quo that they have to deal with, and that has those in power terrified, which is the anarchy aspect of who we are at Camp Migizi. It's been absolutely wonderful to meet all of my Lakota relatives on this journey. It's been absolutely beautiful to, discover how many similarities we have within our cultures. And I'm just so happy and grateful to be here today sharing space with all of you. And I want to say thank you to Lakota People Law Project for all of the work that they do all across the board. And I just want to thank each and every single one of you who has RSVP'd and taken the time to listen to a bit of our stories.